As they journeyed through space, their spaceship was slowly approaching the red planet. The girl wearing red jacket looked confused and irritated as she asked, What's going on? Is this the right place? Are we at the wrong location? The blonde girl, while fixing the spaceship's controls, replied, It's correct planet number, 1774652.2245B2COS2C.432 double, quote, We've arrived at the exact destination on Earth. Hey, Robert! Get over here now! You damn food thief! The girl in jacket ordered Robert, who was watching the red planet through the spaceship's window as they get closer and closer to it. Huh? This is strange. I'm sure this is the right place, but... She stopped him mid-sentence and said, A place drenched in radiation with not even a trace of oxygen. And there's supposedly a high-value wanted criminal hiding here? And that too, a high-ranking member of the Black Blood gang? She asked him in frustration. Yes, nodded Robert. You damn! She gave him a death stare. And no, it's true, really. This intel came out when Hao Moon raided the main system of the Beggars sect. He was defending his statement when she stopped him again and asked Sunja, Sunja, what do you think? Sunja, while moving their spaceship towards the planet, replied her, If he came here, it would be to commit suicide. Oxygen saturation at 23.76% radiation contamination level at 87 sieverts. It's perfect for dying. Upon hearing his answer, she asked curiously, Is it possible for a human to be there? Sunja replied, With a top-notch radiation shield installed and a high-capacity internal energy drive that spans multiple cycles, maybe they can last for about 6 hours. The girl then asked Robert, All right then, Robert. What will you do if we go and find nothing? Will you risk your life? Robert was stunned by her question and said, Huh? My life? Jake, just like that? The girl said aggressively, Ugh. Anyways, if he's not there, you're dead meat. Oh, and Sunja mentioned there was a human life sign detected below the surface. Ga. They finally landed on the red planet known as Earth. As they landed on the planet, Sunja told them target coordinates are 117.07, 36.25. In the past, this place was called Mount Tai, she asked Sunja. Mount Tai? You mean that Mount Tai? Yes, the very place those old farts from the Martial Alliance call a legendary sanctuary. It's the origin of the Mount Tai star system. The girl looked over and asked, This? Trash dump? Those old geezers from the Martial Alliance? Why don't they do some cleaning? What do they make money for? Isn't it their sacred ground? Robert replied. They're all talk and no action. They'll never do anything that doesn't make money. We're here, said the red jacket girl. Robert questioned her. Here? But there's nothing here. Are you sure? Yes. Right below here. Should I set it up around here then? She wondered as she touched the ground of the planet. What are you planning to do? Robert asked her. Whatever is down there is alive, right? While she was figuring out whether to go there or not, her waist stereo started saying, Activating internal energy drive. After looking at the depth, she told herself, If I were buried that deep, I'd have suffocated long ago. Open it up. These were her final words before the blast which caused a hole to open underground. Give me heads up next time, so I can get out of the way. The girl and Robert were shocked by seeing the depth of that hole. Sunja, any signs of life? The girl asked Sunja, who was observing and instructing them from the spaceship. It's faint, but still alive. There's also a pretty large space down below, Sunja continued telling them. Robert, after gathering the information, said, "Captain, bring the electronic ladder." Before he could complete his sentence, the girl jumped in the hole. "Ha! You're always so hot-tempered," said Robert after watching her jump in the hole. "Let's go together," said, while jumping after her. "Let's go," he said as they reached the bottom. After walking a few miles, they saw a giant door in front of them that said in Chinese writing, "The world fears me and has imprisoned me with the great Dharma of historic teachings. If you clumsily try to awaken me, death will greet you first." Lee Mokjin. Robert said, "What does it say? It looks like writing." The girl in red jacket ordered Sunja, "Sunja, translate it." After some research, he replied, "It's in an ancient language used around 2,000 years ago. Roughly, it means, 'Don't open if you don't want to die.'" After knowing the translation, Robert said, "A threat? See? I told you that bastard is hiding there." She replied, "A threat? In an ancient language no one understands?" Robert replied in confusion, "It could be possible, right? Well, in any case, it's a good thing. If they're threatening us not to open it, there must be something valuable inside," she told him as they walked towards the giant door. As they both opened the door, they couldn't believe they were witnessing at the moment. They entered a big hallway with a strange human-like creature sitting right in the middle of the hall. What's that?" "It looks human, but," said Robert with a stunned reaction. The girl, on the other hand, didn't utter a single word, but instead thought of going closer to that human-like creature. She climbed the stairs leading towards the creature and was standing in front of it. "Well, is it alive? Is it human?" It's been buried for 2,000 years, so it couldn't possibly be alive," told Robert, who was still standing down the stairs. The girl kept staring the creature for almost half a minute, and then decided to finally touch and see what happens. She moved her finger with a sense of fear and curiosity towards its nose, which was barely visible through its long hair. As she poked his nose, everything went silent for a few seconds, and then she got electrocuted and saw the sparks growing bigger and bigger. The creature opened his red, wide eyes with fire burning in it. What is this?" the girl screamed as she was pushed back due to the current revolving around that creature. The creature stood up and then, boom! A really big explosion, which was so big that even Sunja could witness it from their spaceship. What is happening? Captain, what's going on? What was that just now? What did you do? Sunja was really worried as he asked as he saw the explosion. Seryeong! Robert! Answer me! Why aren't you answering? Answer, Captain Seryeong. The blast caused Seryeong to fell downstairs with a force. She even got splashes of blood on her mask. She saw Robert laying in his stomach on a distance. Maybe this was because of the blast, too. The next thing she see is that giant creature slowly approaching her. It was almost 50 foot tall and standing right in front of her. Who are you? The creature started talking in an abnormal language, which Seryeong couldn't understand. Who dares to awaken me? Seryeong was confused and continued staring him as she couldn't understand a single word it was saying. The creature got furious as he continued asking Seryeong, Speak, why have you awakened me? Seryeong got irritation and said, What the hell is he saying? I can't understand a word. She activated the real-time translation mode. The creature couldn't hold it anymore and said as he raised his giant hand to kill her, If you do not answer, I will kill you. Seryeong now could finally understand what the giant creature was saying. She panicked as she heard it saying, He's gonna kill her. Huh? Kill? Who? What? The creature replied, I will kill. She immediately stood up as she saw it raising his hand to kill Seryeong. What the hell? What kind of monster is this? She generated a power ball in her hand and started attacking the giant creature. Die! 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 And then a loud blast. Blue, glowy smoke could be seen all around. The creature disappeared in the air. Not even his remains were seen around her. Ha! 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 She said with relief as she was sure that she finally killed the giant creature. Her waist device started telling her, Warning! Drive overload! 1.2 cycles out of 1.14 have been used. Please recharge your internal energy. As the smoke slowly started fading, she could see that creature standing still a little far from her without any damage. What the... Why is it still the same? She couldn't process what she was seeing in front of her eyes. It's the Quantum Golden Summit Divine Art and the Red Mist Divine Palm. Although they are the martial arts of the Ame sect, it seems to have many impurities, suggesting it was learned through theft. In other words, you're just a thief scraping by with grave robbing. The creature told Seryeong with red glowing eyes. It started floating in the air. Its feet were no longer touching the ground. Seryeong stayed still and kept looking at it as she couldn't understand what was actually happening. The creature was really high above the ground now. He was furious and said, How dare a mere thief disrupt my eternal sleep? You shall die. Seryeong got frightened, but before she could even say anything, the creature who was floating about 100 feet above her fell straight to the ground, with his face facing the ground. What is this now? She asked herself as she was still unaware of what happened. It must have died. Exposed to such radiation without a shielding field, it's only natural it's dead. Robert finally woke up, rubbing the dirt off his clothes, and assumed as he couldn't see any movement in the creature. Still, it held out for a long time. It's still alive. The breathing is normal and so is the impulse. Huh? Then why? Robert asked Sunja as he can monitor the creature's impulse. Sunja replied, It seems it collapsed from energy depletion. The body is fine, but the battery inside its stomach is drained. Hearing this, Seryeong got shocked and said, Stomach? Robert and Seryeong both kept staring at the creature who was still on the ground, as if he died. So it fainted from hunger? It was starving? Robert wondered. By the way, the reason for them calling him it is because they are not sure if he's a person or not. No way! Caption! Why did you bring it along? You should have left it behind. Didn't you see it go berserk earlier? It's worse than a cockroach exposed to radiation. At least a radioactive cockroach would be worth a few bucks. This crazy monster isn't worth anything. Why did you bring it along? Robert was not happy with Seryeong's decision of bringing that creature along with her in the spaceship. It's worth money, she replied as she was staring at the creature who was lying on their spacecraft's floor tied in tapes. Upon hearing her statement, Sunja and Robert both were shocked and confused. Chapter 2. Seryeong asked what's the most valuable cultural heritage nowadays. Sunja responded ancient martial arts. The closer to the original, the more expensive it is. Seryeong replied, right. Judging from the circumstances, that fuzzball is likely an ancient martial artist. From 2,000 years ago, no less. 2,000 years ago was a legendary period when martial arts were highly developed. Sunja said even the lowest class F-grade techniques from that era fetch at least 10,000 credits. Seryeong said, but that fuzzball is not on that level. He was an unimaginable grandmaster, at least an S rank or higher. Robert said. If he's truly an S rank, we'd be hitting the jackpot. But what if he walks up like that? Seryeong said, Don't worry, it's a celestial silk worm, used for spaceship repairs. Even the head of the Shaolin sect couldn't cut it. She suddenly heard the sound of something ripping and looked back to see the creature had torn apart the silkworm web and was standing there. The creature said angrily, How dare you, lowly grave-robbing thieves, try to desecrate me? I will tear you to shreds. Seryeong and Robert both readied themselves for a fight. Robert said, See? I knew this would happen. Seryeong said, Damn! Right then, they were both shocked when Sunja stood in front of the creature holding food for it. The creature started eating immediately. Robert and Seryeong calmed down, and Seryeong asked Sunja how he knew this. Sunja replied with a prideful expression. He's been starving for a long time. The best thing for a hungry beast is sausage. Robert and Seryeong both said, Aha, out of amusement. When the creature finished eating, it asked curiously, So you weren't grave robbers but bounty hunters who accidentally woke me up? And now this is the world 2,000 years after my time? Humans, after harming each other to no end, destroyed the world and decided to live in the skies. Seryeong replied sadly, Yes. Well, things have stabilized since then. We decided not to allow any weapons apart from martial arts, including nuclear weapons. The creature said, Nuclear weapons? Then it asked, What is the current era called? Seryeong replied, Era? Ah, it's the year 1105 of the galactic calendar. The creature asked curiously, Galactic? So you also live in the sky? Seryeong said, So now you're starting to understand. That's right. Since we woke you after 2,000 years, you should be immensely grateful. The creature became furious and said, Nonsense! Who do you think you're talking to? Do you even know who I am? You're nothing but third-rate grave robbers, and you try to deceive me with your nonsense. Do you really wish to die? Robert, Seryeong, and Sunja all pointed their fingers toward the planet. The creature looked over, and Seryeong told it. See? That place over there, fuzzball. No, Grandpa. No, Master, is where you lived. Master looked toward the planet and asked, That place is the world I lived in? Seryeong replied, Yes. Totally ruined now, though. Anyway, now that you've seen it, do you believe us? She patted his head while saying this. Master said, Even if I want to believe, I can't. You expect me to believe that the land I was standing on is round? Seryeong disappointedly put her hand on her forehead and said, Ah, how astonishingly ignorant! Robert looked at the master and said, Huh? What's that smell? Seryeong held her nose with her fingers and said, Hey, you'll learn the rest later. But first, how about a shower? Maybe trim your hair too. We're going to have to stay together for a while anyway. Master questioned. Shower? Seryeong replied. A bath. The crew stood outside the bathroom while the master was getting his hair trimmed and showered. Robert asked, Why didn't you just leave the hair as is? When Master was done showering, Robert said, I'm scared something mummified might come out from inside. As he leaned in to look, they all saw a beautiful young man patting his hair dry with a towel. As he came out, he asked, Is there more of what I ate earlier? While the crew was shocked looking at him, Seryeong thought, Who are you? As their spaceship traveled through space, the master stood near the glass, observing the stars and space. He said, It does seem like this is the sky after all. I once lamented the world's narrowness, but it is truly vast and strange. Suddenly, Seryeong pinched his cheek and asked, How old are you? Hibernation doesn't count, just so you know. Robert and Sunja looked at them from afar. Robert said, Definitely not normal. And Sunja agreed, mm-hmm. Now they saw Pleiades, a cluster of stars in the Milky Way, and inside it, an asteroid space tavern named Wild Crane Inn. Sunja looked at Master with concern while he was eating sausages. Robert leaned toward Sunja and asked, "How can a human eat that much?" Sunja replied, "He did starve for 2,000 years. Robert then asked, "What? So he has to eat 2,000 years worth of food?" Sunja replied, "Judging by his eating, that might be the case." They then saw a fat man who was the keeper of Wild Crane Inn, Wang the 18th. He was sitting in front of Seryeong and asked her if she was looking for a broker. Seryeong replied, "Yes. And it must be someone rich and tough because it's extremely valuable and expensive." Wang asked, "How expensive must it be for Blazing Devil to be frantic?" Seryeong said, "How much would a full collection of 200-year-old martial arts manuscripts be worth? If they were all originals and all S rank." Wang was stunned after listening to that as Seryeong left the room. A servant standing behind Yang's chair said, "Could it be real? If they're S rank from 2,000 years ago, they must be incredibly valuable." Yang replied, "0 credits." The servant asked, "Pardon?" Yang responded, "0 credits, I said. If such things existed, a single book alone could buy a planet and more. And she claims to have found a bunch of them? A mere mid-tier bounty hunter? The blazing demon? Stop talking nonsense and kick them out." Seryeong returned to their table and asked Robert, "Where's Sunja?" Robert replied, "She went to buy supplies." "How did the talk go?" Seryeong responded, "Good. He said he'd contact us immediately when he finds someone to buy." She looked at the master, who had a dump of empty plates in front of him, and asked, "But what's with this? There's no way he ate all that, right?" Robert stood up, saying, "Luckily, he just stopped." Seryeong looked down and said, "Ha, if it weren't for the money, I'd really—" Then they heard a loud sound of walking and looked towards the entrance door. Seryeong looked shocked and said, "Those people are from the Heavenly Demon Sect." Chapter 3. A group of people entered the hall, and the person at the front was wearing a device and using it to search the room. Robert and Seryeong looked at them while hiding behind their table. Seryeong said, "That's right, that person. He's the leader of the Red Wolf Squad, Sanjin Wu Yue." Robert asked, "Red Wolf Platoon?" "If it's the Red Wolf Platoon, they're the inspectors of the Demon Sect, aren't they? Why are they here?" Seryeong replied, "They specialize in tracking, so they must be pursuing someone." The master, sitting behind them, asked curiously, "Did you just say Demon Sect? By Demon Sect, could you possibly refer to the Heavenly Demon Sect?" Seryeong asked, "How do you know about the Heavenly Demon Sect when you've been asleep for 2,000 years?" Seryeong replied, "But why don't the people flee? If they were truly Demon Sect members, people should be panicking." Seryeong explained, "Why would they? The Heavenly Demon Sect has its quirks, but they still pride themselves on being the foremost orthodox sect in the entire universe." The master, shocked, asked, "The Heavenly Demon Sect? As an orthodox sect? My dream. That dream that always felt so distant and empty. Has it really come true?" The leader of the Red Wolf Squad, Sanjin, looked around the hall. He spotted a man with his head down and approached him, telling him to look up and scanning his data. Gender, male, internal energy, 52.7 centigrade, loaded martial art, 5-star Blackbird art. wanted on charges of robbery and assault. Level 2 Sunja then told the man, "Today is your lucky day. You're not our target. Go to the Martial Alliance and turn yourself in. If you don't—" Suddenly, he noticed a hand on his head. The master patted him while saying, "Admirable. That seemingly impossible dream of mine. You young ones have made it come true. How admirable." The master hugged his head and said, "How much suffering must these young ones have endured to achieve such stature?" Sunja asked if the master was a child with intelligence issues. Robert replied, "Not exactly. It's just that his social skills are a bit lacking." Sunja said, "Child, you should know it's your lucky day as well. If I had sensed even a bit of martial art energy from your body, you would have already been shattered into pieces." Sunja tried to get away but felt a lot of strain on his back. He said, "What's happening? How come I can't move at all?" Robert asked Seryeong curiously. "What's with him?" Seryeong replied, "I'm not sure." Unable to hold back anymore, Sunja used his power. Internal energy drive system activating Blood Wolf Demon Art, drive rate max, and shouted with his arms open, "You! Stop messing around!" A tornado formed with his power and tables flew away. People looked toward him with shocked expressions. Sunja noticed the master standing in front of him unfazed and got startled. Seryeong told Robert, "He doesn't seem to be in good shape." Sunja asked with anger, Who the hell are you?" He thought, "How is it possible that he is still unfazed? I was clearly intending to kill instantly." He scanned the master's data and found it unregistered in the database. Sunja wondered, how can a pure natural being with zero internal energy still be alive? The master smiled and said, "It's the Blood Wolf Demon Art, huh? It's one of the lower-level martial arts among the heavenly demon body cultivation arts, but still, it's commendable that it's been passed down until now. However, it's a pity that your internal energy and QE are not in harmony. It seems your training method is flawed. But meeting me today is the opportunity of a lifetime for you, isn't it? So let me personally fix it for you." Sunja came forward saying, "You lunatic, die!" and used Red Wolf Demon Claw, first form, Red Wolf Strike. But the master dodged it easily. Sunja tried to attack him with several other moves but couldn't even touch him. Then he said, "Enough!" and tried to use a big attack. The master suddenly grabbed his head and said, "Enough!" before pushing him into the ground. The people in the hall looked on in shock. The master told Sunja, "You have learned it all right, but learned it like a parrot. True martial arts are not just about imitating, but adopting and making them your own. Now, if you understand, get up and try again." "Get up," I said. All the other members of the Wolf clan tried to attack the master at once, but were defeated in an instant. After the Wolf clan members are defeated by the master, we see Heavenly Demon Sect District 32, where the Wolf clan is receiving medical treatment. A man is watching them on the screen and says, "Unbelievable." He is the commander of Heavenly Demon Sect District 32, Jong Ritak. The person standing behind him tells him, "Fortunately, they only suffered severe bruising. Their lives are not in danger." Jong asks, "Is that fortunate?" "Even so, against a mere unknown stranger. Our sect's Red Wolf platoon was put in such a state." The person standing behind him is the senior elder of District 32, Jo Chunrock. Commander Jong asks the elder, "You said that he's not registered in the Martial Alliance database?" The elder replies, "Yes, however, his companions were registered. They are a group of bounty hunters known as S-Devil. They mainly deal with B-class or lower petty criminals, led by a person named Seryeong the Blazing Devil." The commander asks, Seryeong the blazing devil? Elder Chunrock replies, yes, a quite well-known bounty hunter straddling both the orthodox and unorthodox worlds. After the incident, they left Wild Crane Inn, but we can track them. Should we send a pursuit team? The commander replies, no. I will handle this personally. The elder bows in front of the commander. The commander presses the green button in front of him, which connects him to a transmission broadcast. A person on the screen appears and says, it's been a while, District Commander Jong Ritak. The person then asks, is there perhaps a request you have for our Greenwood group? The crew of Seryeong was traveling in space while the master sat at the table waiting for food with a spoon and fork in his hands. Both Seryeong and Robert were staring at him. Robert asked Seryeong, Captain, be honest. You're just as scared as I am right now, right? Seryeong replied with an angry expression. What are you talking about? Robert leaned closer to Seryeong and said, you saw it too, didn't you? Sanjen Wolf and Red Wolf Platoon are still A-rank martial artists, and he slapped them down with one blow. Seryeong rudely replied, those guys, if I fought them seriously, I could win too. They might be A-rank, but at the lowest level of it. Robert amusingly said, well, if I put my line on it, I might be able to scratch them a little bit. But that guy swatted them aside like flies. Seryeong got closer to the master and said, let's talk. The master replied, food first. Seryeong sat down and said, no, let's talk first. She asked, what's your name? Robert got close to Seryeong and said, excuse me, Captain. I'd suggest using honorifics first. Seryeong, with a bit of shyness on her face, shouted, are you deaf? What's your name? Sunja brought sausages, and the master ignored Seryeong while looking at them. Seryeong shouted, don't even think about it until we're done talking. Robert whispered to Seryeong, hey, Captain, it's said not to bother even a dog when it's eating. At least let him eat comfortably first. The master looked at them and replied, Lee Mok Jin. Seryeong then asked him about his identity and past profession. Mok Jin replied, heavenly demon. Supreme heavenly demon. Seryeong was shocked and said, heavenly demon? Did he just say supreme? What nonsense is this guy spouting? Did we feed him bad hot dogs? Suddenly the ship started giving an alert sound. Target detected, Sunja said. Someone is targeting us. They're at close range. Seryeong hurriedly said, I knew it. It must be the Heavenly Demon sect. After he beat up the Red Wolf Platoon, they wouldn't leave us alone. Sunja said, it's not the Heavenly Demon sect, it's Greenwood. A person was looking at Seryeong's ship while he heard, Devil ship confirmed. They're the bounty targets. The person was the leader of the Galaxy Division of the 72 strongholds of Greenwood, Black Tiger, the Crescent Moon, Kim Sungbom. The person standing behind him asked, Division Leader, should we fire the EMP capture round? The division leader questioned, you said they're bounty hunters, right? The person replied, yes. According to our investigation, they mainly operate on the outskirts of the galaxy. Their leader is someone called Blazing Devil Seryeong. The division leader, after hearing that, thought, why would the Heavenly Demon sect bother with a small-time group like this? Then he said, this is odd. There's definitely something going on. The person behind him suggested, they are far more adept at taking lives than we are. They must have a reason for specifically entrusting us with the task. The division leader looked at Seryeong's ship and said, there must be a trap inside that ship. Seryeong, while looking at the ships of the division, said, they brought a whole crowd with them. They're bandits, so they must be here to rob us, right? Robert doubted her speculation and said, dragging such a large fleet around, what profit would they get from robbing extremely poor folks like us? Seryeong angrily looked at Robert and said, I get your point, but it bothers me the way you say it. And then she shouted, anyway, doesn't matter. These Greenwood scumbag robbers, if they get in the way, we just beat them and toss them out. Sunja stopped her while saying, "It's not that simple. They are part of the Galaxy Division of the 72 strongholds of Greenwood, and it appears that the entire division has been mobilized." Seryeong said, "The whole Galaxy Division? Then, does that mean the division leader is here too? That guy, Kim Sungbom, Black Tiger, Kim Sungbom." Lee looked outside at the ship and said, "Whoa, how cool." Seryeong, while thinking about Kim Sungbom, said, "Even I can't beat that guy easily." Robert replied to that, saying, "Of course it's not easy. You'd be dead within 3 moves if you stood against him." Seryeong angrily jumped and said, "Hey! It's not that bad. If I really put my mind to it, I can—" Robert, with his head down and showing disappointment, said, "Forget it. Let's just surrender quickly. We have nothing to lose. Don't panic." Seryeong then told everyone, "All right, everyone follow my command from now. First, they'll fire the EMP capture round to cut off the ship's energy and incapacitate us. I'll permit that. Then they'll board our ship armed. I'll permit that too. We'll let them search the ship and also donate anything unnecessary for survival if they want it." Robert said, "How is that different from surrendering?" Seryeong patted Lee's shoulder and said, "Don't panic. When the EMP hits, the ship will shake a bit. But don't worry, there's no destructive power. Because of the space laws, those guys can't use ship weapons either." Lee didn't even care about what she was saying, so she said, "Oh, didn't understand that?" "Anyway, don't interfere," she suggested while walking backward. "Once they take what they want, they'll leave us be. If a fight breaks out and things escalate, I can't guarantee anything." She looked at Sunja and said, "Locked on? Brace for impact." Sunja, with worry on her face, said, "No, it's photon cannon." Seryeong, shocked, exclaimed, "A ship-destroying photon cannon! They're trying to kill us! Crazy!" The man who seemed to be the captain of the Galaxy Division suggested, "Division leader, this violates space regulations. It might cause trouble later. Capturing and quietly disposing of them would be—" Kim stopped him mid-sentence and said, "No, I have a bad feeling. Just blow them to dust and complicate the matters. We can shift all the responsibility to the client. Fire when ready." Seryeong urgently asked Sunja, "Warp? Can we warp?" Sunja replied, "No! We're surrounded on all sides." Seryeong then asked her about the shields. Sunja said, "Not working. Remember when we sold parts for living expenses?" Seryeong then thought, "Right. So what now?" The captain told the division leader that the cannon energy was fully charged. The division leader gave the order to fire the cannon, and then a big photon beam was headed toward Seryeong's crew. As everyone watched, just when Seryeong's crew was nearly going to be annihilated completely, a round UFO appeared and blocked the photon beam. A woman was standing on top of it. Kim noticed her and said with worry on his face, "8-foot fighting ghost." Elena, Robert, Seryeong, and Mokjin stuck to the glass of the spaceship and stared outside at the beautiful woman who had just saved them. Kim Sungbom looked at the woman and said, "Elena, why is she—" The division captain told Kim that it was a terraformation-grade shield. "We can penetrate it if we max out the photon cannon output. Shall we recharge?" Kim said, "Are we trying to start a space war just to deal with a cockroach? That person isn't easily handled. Activate the teleportation." Robert looked at Elena and said, "If it's the 8-foot fighting ghost Elena, she's an S-class bounty hunter. She's so unpredictable that even the leaders of most sects avoid her." "Why is she here?" Seryeong said, "It's more puzzling. Why did she save us? If she hadn't blocked that photon cannon, we'd be atomized by now." Kim teleported in front of Elena and said, "Long time no see, Sister Elena. Surely you haven't forgotten me, have you? I'm your 55th younger brother, Kim Sungbom. I greeted you at Mother's birthday 2 years ago." Elena told him to get lost, but Kim continued, "Let me formally reintroduce myself. However, this time, Not as your brother Kim Sungbom, but as the leader of the Galaxy Division of the 72 Strongholds of Greenwood. Telling me to get lost is the same as telling all of Greenwood to get lost. I cannot accept that. Elena's body started glowing with a red light, as if she was ready to fight. Robert saw this and said, "Oh, it seems like they're about to fight." Seryeong said, "It's not going to be easy. Even for Greenwood, that woman isn't easily touched. Dealing with Elena alone is tough, and if they're unfortunate, her mother lioness might jump out from behind, too." Elena was about to attack Kim, but he said, "You're the same as ever, resorting to fist anyhow. I surrender. Relax. I don't want to fight. A fight is a loss, especially for a crappy job like this. Let's resolve it peacefully, but I would like to know the reason." He pointed at Seryeong's ship and said, "Are those your targets? If it overlaps with ours, we will yield." Elena said, "Get lost." Kim thought, "But why? For what purpose would she come for such useless things?" Elena said, "Hand it over, or everyone dies." Seryeong said, "What's going on now, Robert?" After hearing what Elena said, Robert, terrified, asked, "Does she want to rob us too? What do we even have?" "Ah, Captain, did you stash something valuable without telling us?" "No, right? We don't have anything like that. There's nothing here that could attract and rank bounty hunter like her." Elena was looking at Mokjin while listening to him. Then she asked, "Do you perhaps know that woman? Maybe you had a fling in the past, or dated and had a big breakup before running away." Mokjin replied, "It's not because of me." Mokjin looked back and said, "It's probably because of that child." Robert and Seryeong looked back, but there was nothing behind them. A girl appeared in that empty space as if she was invisible. Robert and Seryeong were both shocked. Seryeong asked, What? What's with her?" Mokjin told everyone. "She followed us from the inn. She had presence but no form, so I left her be. But to conceal her breathing too, such an advanced stealth technique seems martial arts have developed in the meantime." Sunja replied, "It's not a stealth technique. She's wearing a stealth ring. It's quantum technology, really expensive stuff." Seryeong angrily got closer to the girl and asked, "Expensive or not? Who the heck are you? What's your intention? Why did you sneak onto our ship?" The girl answered, "I'm Hua Rin, Young Hua Rin." Seryeong then asked, "Are they after you? Are you their target?" The girl replied, "Probably. As long as I'm alive, they won't stop." Robert asked, "Hua Rin? Did you just say Hua Rin?" Seryeong asked Robert, "Do you know her?" Robert replied, "How could I not? She's the main vocalist of Pronosian, the Galaxy's top rookie idol duo. Even you know it. Dynamite Do-Do-Do. She's the main vocalist of the idol group that sang that hit song. I play it all the time, and you dance every time." I was right. Wow. She's even prettier in person. Robert looked at her picture and said, "She's even from the same place as me, Mount Hua." A broadcast echoed inside the ship. "This is your last warning. In 10 minutes, hand her over, or everyone dies." Robert asked Hua Rin, "But Miss Hua Rin, why are they doing this? What's the reason?" Seryeong stopped him and said, "It doesn't matter. Let's be clear. You're an uninvited guest. You have nothing to do with us. So, you need to leave." Robert tried to talk to Seryeong, but she said, "I've made my decision. As the captain." She made her stand in the exit room of the ship as Seryeong and Robert watched her through a window. Robert said, "Captain, I don't think this is right. And she's the main vocalist of Pronosian." Seryeong said, "We can't protect her anyway. We're already struggling. Against Greenwood, let alone an 8-foot fighting demon like Elena. Even if we hold our ground, that child's fate won't change. But our fate will, because we'll all die." She pushed the red button, saying, I'm in pain too. Hua Rin was worried. As the exit door was opening, she noticed a hand on her shoulder. She looked back and saw Mokjin standing behind her. Mokjin said, "Didn't I tell you?" "Don't worry." Robert and Seryeong saw Mokjin in the exit room and panicked. Robert suggested, "Let's just see what happens. That guy's really strong too. He might even defeat Elena." Seryeong shouted at him, "Are you insane? That's space out there." She told Sunja to close the gate quickly, but Sunja said it was too late now. The door opened, and they both went out into space. Hua Rin said, "Thank you, but they're really strong martial artists. You need to be careful." When she looked back, she saw Mokjin's eyes had turned red, and he was suffocating. As he struggled to breathe in space, Elena and Kim watched him from afar. Kim said, "Outside is -300 degrees, and the pressure would burst your internal organs within 10 seconds. Why would you go out there without a shield?" As Mokjin struggled to breathe and his face started to freeze, Seryeong held his face in her hands and activated the nano-shield on him. After doing that, she started slapping Mokjin's face, saying, "Wake up! Are you alive? Breathe! Breathe already!" Mokjin opened his eyes and Seryeong said, "Ha! You're alive! I thought you were dead, you bastard!" Mokjin told her, "You worry for no reason. This one is the supreme being of heaven and earth. Nothing in this world can threaten my life. But how do I get down from here?" She held his hand and helped him reach the UFO. Robert exclaimed, "Thank goodness. Seems like she wasn't too late." Sunja, from the back, said she was very late. Even the greatest master can't withstand space without a shield for less than a minute, but he endured 6 minutes and 13 seconds. Moreover, all his organs are normal. He has far surpassed human limits. As Seryeong, Mokjin, and Hua Rin stood in front of Elena and Kim, Seryeong thought, "I heard she is a fighting maniac. Her aura is no joke, especially since even Kim Sungbom of Greenwood is here." She then looked back and told the other two, "Don't cause trouble. I'll handle it. Don't intervene." She dramatically raised her hand, looked toward Elena, and said, "Oh, nice to see you. Nothing bad happened, right? You're still healthy as ever. I've heard a lot about you two, but seeing you in person is even better. You know me, right? I'm Seryeong, leader of the S-Devils, the Blazing Devil." Mokjin held Hua Rin's hand and said, "No need to be nervous. I'm here with you, aren't I?" Hua Rin replied, "But that woman, she's not human. She's a ghost, a fighting ghost. Ever since she was young, she's been traveling the world looking for opponents. Apparently, no one has survived meeting her so far. She even built a spaceship as a fighting arena just to travel and fight." Mokjin said, "Who? What a remarkable child. A young one dedicating their heart and soul to martial training. A rare talent indeed." Meanwhile, Seryeong said, Whatever the case may be, we, as fellow Central Plain people, should talk peacefully." Elena replied, "Talk with my sword," and then she attacked. Blue smoke appeared as Elena looked toward Seryeong. Seryeong appeared through the smoke and said, "What are you doing? I said let's talk. Why are you swinging your weapon out of nowhere?" Kim thought, not bad. It wasn't at full power, but it was still not an easy attack to dodge. Elena looked at Seryeong and wondered, was it Blazing Devil Seryeong? However, it would have been better not to dodge. Seryeong was also thinking, your opponent is a mad scorpion that gets more poisonous the more you provoke it. You'll just die more painfully. Then she heard hiccups coming from the smoke. Hua Rin and Mokjin appeared, and Mokjin told Hua Rin, getting scared over such trivial matters? It's just childish pranks." While patting her head, he continued, "It looks grand, but it's just a noisy firecracker. Got frightened by an empty tin can? Regulate your breathing." "Good, good." Elena got ready to attack them again, and Mokjin said, "Child." Seryeong angrily said, "Hey, I told you not to get involved." Mokjin ignored her and said to Elena, What business do you have here? If you have something to say to this child, speak to me. Kim scanned Mokjin's data while he said, This child is under my protection, so any business with this child goes through me. Kim, after reviewing the data, thought, no identification and no internal energy drive equipped. So he's a nameless natural from the outskirts? Mokjin continued his words with Elena, saying, If you have no business, then leave. While flipping his hand up and down, Elena attacked Mokjin. Everyone was shocked as Mokjin stopped the attack with his hand. Mokjin asked her, Is this your business? Do you want to fight me? Kim, looking at the scene, thought, deflecting the fighting ghost Elena's strike with just a palm? How can he do that without internal energy? Mokjin continued his words while effortlessly holding Elena's sword. But something's odd. Utilizing the radiant sword technique of Diankang's sect with a staff is one thing, but channeling Shaolin's great Brahma divine art for internal energy? Moreover, she's so young, but already has internal energy surpassing that of 3 cycles. Did she experience a fortunate encounter? Or... Elena powered up her suit, and Mokjin was amazed. He said, 3 cycles? And now switching internal energy to Wudang's Red Sun divine art? Elena turned her internal energy drive to 95%. Kim thought, incredible. Was Elena always this strong? Mokjin asked Elena, Are you going all out now? Elena heard a warning sound from her ring and remembered the words of her mother. Leaving for the world, I won't stop you. Any fight that furthers your training is permissible, but death is not allowed. You are already strong. Throughout the entire world, there are less than 10 martial artists who can harm you, and even they cannot push you to the brink of death. But remember, I am your mother. Therefore, there is one rule. If this ring sounds, you must flee, no matter what. It means the opponent is beyond your reach. If you ignore the warning, you'll surely die. Back in the present, Elena, looking at Mokjin, ignored the words of her mother and increased her power to 120% as everyone looked at her and got amused by her power. She turned into a battle beast. Mokjin said, What an unheard-of talent. Transcendental awakening with transformation. So time has passed, and so has martial arts. But it's a bit too much. Elena attacked Mokjin. He dodged the attack while saying, The chaotic storm sword technique of Ma sect. She attacked him again, and he said, The sun and moon twin wheels of the Kunlun sect. Elena increased her energy to 125% and attacked again. Mokjin easily dodged it and said, The sun-piercing spear technique and the falling sun blade technique of the Diankang sect. She attacked again, but Mokjin still dodged it and counted it again as the dog-beating stick technique and the drunken 8 immortals step of the beggar's sect. Elena increased her power to 170%, and Mokjin said, Enough already! Then he flipped his hand towards Elena, and an explosion occurred. When the mist from Mokjin's explosion cleared up, everyone saw Elena up above the UFO. Elena looked as if she had 8 arms, and then she attacked again while increasing her power to 190%. Mokjin said, Stop, child. Your talent is admirable, but you've crossed the line of righteousness. Your awakening shows wounds and desires. You are being consumed by yourself, inner demons. Any further, and I'll have no choice but to kill you to stop you. I promise to protect this child. He then charged his fist and shouted, I said stop! Then he attacked Elena. The whole UFO they were standing on got destroyed with Mokjin's attack. Kim teleported back to his ship with wounds and told the division captain, I'm not dead. Had the teleport been even 0.1 seconds late, I'd have been torn to pieces. At a broken piece of Elena's UFO, Seryeong shouted, Are you insane? We almost all died. Even in the past, who in the middle of the ocean sets their own ship on fire just because they're angry? You should have had some restraint. Mokjin replied to Seryeong that restraint wasn't an option. Seryeong saw blood coming out from Mokjin's mouth and asked him, "Are you hurt?" Mokjin said, "I faced a power much stronger than anticipated." They both looked up at Elena, and Seryeong asked Mokjin, "Is she dead?" Mokjin replied, "No, she's not dead yet. A stronger force protected her." Then they saw a woman holding Elena, and they got shocked. There was a big ship above them, and they got teleported to it in an instant. Elena was put in a healing chamber, and the woman who saved her was looking at her. The division commander of Greenwood bowed down in front of her and said, "I couldn't have known that you would be coming here, Mother. Punish me for my lack of loyalty and filial piety." The woman said, "This is not your place to intervene. Act as if you aren't here." She then touched her hand with her fist and said, "I am called West Heaven Sword Matron Kim." Seryeong and Mokjin were shocked, and they both thought, West Heaven Sword Matron is showing respect for Mokjin. Matron then apologized to Mokjin, saying, "I violated the dueling code of martial arts by rudely intervening, driven by familial affection. If you wish, I shall cut off my arm as an apology." Mokjin said, "No need for that arm." He asked her about Elena, saying, "Is she your daughter?" Seryeong was scared and whispered to Mokjin, "Hey, hey, hey! That's the West Heaven Sword Matron you're talking to. West Heaven Sword Matron, speak more respectfully." The matron replied, "Yes, she is." Mokjin said, "Then that's all. Family takes precedence over the dueling code." Seryeong whispered again, "Please, just speak politely." That woman is one of the 5 immortals, the West Heaven Sword Matron. Her temper is so bad she'll split you in 2 just by glaring. Matron bowed in front of Mokjin. And then later on the top of the ship with Mokjin, she said, "Though my daughter's consciousness has not yet recovered, so the exact reason isn't known. It has been confirmed that the place she passed through right before was Mount Hua. She was likely commissioned there. However, the martial arts demonstrated by the revered master just now seemed to be the Demon Heart Sura sword technique. May I know if you have any relation to the heavenly demon sect?" Mokjin replied, "I don't know. In the past, there was definitely a deep connection. But time has passed. Time corrodes even the strongest bonds as if they were iron, and dissolves connections dearer than life itself." The matron, while looking at him, thought, "Indeed, he is an extraordinary figure. Both chi and internal energy, even martial arts, all perfectly refined. No trace of artificiality. Isn't that a state only achievable during the peak period of martial arts?" She kept looking at him and wondered, he appears to be in his early 20s. Could it be rejuvenation? After thinking all that, she said, "May I dare request something from revered master?" Mokjin asked, "Are you proposing a serious fight?" And she got shocked by Mokjin's judgment. Mokjin further added, "Though you're being polite, every word you say is dripping with murderous intent. Like a sword being sharpened against a flint, getting sharper and sharper." Matron said, "You have sharp ears to even catch this matron's small whisper." He then continued, "I've never refused a challenge. But you know, if we fight, one of us is bound to die. The one left standing will be severely injured. Something too strong has no room to bend and will break." Matron charged up and said, "That is likely the case," Mokjin said. "But do we have any compelling reason to fight? Let's do it if we have a reason in the future. I still want to see more of the world." After that, the matron calmed down, and they left her ship. The matron asked Kim about the whole matter, and then confirmed it by asking, "Was a request from the heavenly demon sect? And it was a silencing kill?" Kim, while bowing down, said, "Yes, indeed. And the matron said, "I don't understand." That person clearly possessed the supreme martial arts of the heavenly demon sect. But why would the heavenly demon sect want him dead? Additionally, why would they hire Greenwood? It doesn't make sense. Kim replied, "There's been recent information that the heavenly demon's Red Wolf platoon was annihilated by an unknown entity." And then asked, "Could they be related?" The matron said, "No need to overthink. Whatever the situation may be, your imagination won't be able to deduce it. Just thoroughly track their movements and report. You can at least do that, right?" Kim replied while keeping his head down. "We from Greenwood pride ourselves as the best in the world at tracking. I belong to Greenwood's command." The matron looked at him and said, "I will trust you, but track them without interfering. I do not want my child to get hurt." Kim looked at her with an emotional feeling and said, "Mother." And she asked, "Ah, by the way, what was your name again?" In Seryeong's ship, she was shouting at Hwa Rin, "Hey! What mess have you gotten yourself into this time? What did you do that got you involved with Greenwood, or 8-foot fighting ghost Elena, and on top of that, West Heaven Sword Matron? Did you flip the world upside down? What did you do?" Hwa Rin, with sadness on her face, apologized. "I am really sorry, but honestly, I don't know why either. After finishing the tour, I returned to Mount Hua, my hometown, and everything was different. Clearly, they were the same hometown people, but everyone was trying to kill me, so I ran away. All the way here." Seryeong said, "I don't have a clue about what you're saying." Then she asked Sunja, "Sunja, do you understand?" Sunja replied, "No, I find it hard to grasp as well." Robert suddenly slapped the table and shouted, "Wait! What did you just say? Mount Hua? You mean the Mount Hua planet, my hometown Mount Hua. What happened on Mount Hua? Tell me immediately." Sunja said, "Humans are utterly abnormal." Meanwhile, on the ship of the matron, Elena was walking and coughing as the matron looked at her. She then asked Elena, "Tell me what happened at Mount Hua." Elena told her everything. Later, at the Heavenly Demon Sect District 32, Commander John Ritak was watching the footage of the fight between Mokjin and Elena. He was stunned, and the matron standing behind him asked, "What do you think?" Quite a familiar martial arts, isn't it? Commander Ritak replied, "I acknowledge that it is a level of martial prowess never seen or heard of before. But I don't understand what you mean by familiar, Sword Matron." They both stared at each other, and the matron thought, "You really don't seem to know." Then she asked Commander Ritak, "Then why did you pursue that person, especially with Greenwood's involvement?" Young Ritak looked at her with a serious expression and said, "That is an internal matter of our sect. Even if you are the sword matron who rules over the West Heaven cosmic ozone, it's not something you should concern yourself with." Right after he said that, his neck was slashed with the matron's sword. As he stood firmly in front of her, holding his neck, he said, "Are you declaring war on our heavenly demon sect?" The matron smiled and replied, "Do you think I, of all people, would fear bloodshed?" Ritak looked at her and thought, "She's a woman who is driven by her obsession with martial arts, which even devoured her own children. She's not one to act based on profit or loss." As the matron charged forward towards him with her sword, she asked, "Will you answer or die?" John replied, "Isn't the choice obvious? Even if all 1,076 martial artists of District 32 attack together, how can they surpass the West Heaven Sword Matron?" He flared his hands with fire and said, "Let's begin. If you want to cut down all 1,076 of them, you'd better hurry, right?" She stopped and said, "They say the heavenly demon sect gets tougher each passing day. That's the demon heart Sura sword technique." John asked her with a confused expression. "What do you mean?" She said, "The heart sword that cut down my daughter was the demon heart Sura sword technique, second in the heavenly demon sect's martial hierarchy." John Retok replied to her saying, That can't be. The demon heart Sura sword technique has been a lost martial art for thousands of years. It exists only in legend. No one in our sect has ever practiced it." She angrily said, "It's not my problem that your knowledge is lacking. I've told you what I know. Now I'll ask again. Why did you pursue Mokjin?" John said, "We weren't chasing that person. We were chasing Seryeong." On the other side, in the Talavitra orbiting star system, at planet Mount Hua, above the Hua-Hun County, Seryeong and her crew were checking, and there were no people in the area to be seen. Seryeong said, "What's this?" "There's nobody here." "Why is no one here? Is it a holiday?" Robert replied, "I don't think so." All the store doors are open. Sunja told them that the town had over 10,000 inhabitants, but there was no sign of life at all. Robert grabbed Seryeong and started shaking her in panic while shouting, "Something must have happened for sure! Commander, let's go down quickly! Something terrifying must have happened, and everyone either died or fled," Seryeong asked him. "Why are you so agitated all of a sudden?" Robert said, "It's my hometown, Mount Hua. We have to save Mount Hua." Hua Rin started crying, and Mokjin asked her, "What's going on? If you know anything, then speak up." Sunja said, "Well, I've detected a life signal. Judging by the location, it's inside Mount Hua's main headquarters in the Jaha Pavilion." Seryeong asked, "The Jaha Pavilion, isn't that where the leader of the Mount Hua sect resides?" Sunja replied, "Yes, that's correct." After that, they were standing outside the Jaha Pavilion. Robert was wearing his robotic suit. Seryeong asked him, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Whoever it is, those who touch my homeland, I won't forgive any of them." Seryeong said, "Is your combat suit still functional? Didn't you stash it away in the warehouse as soon as you got discharged? I thought you had already sold it off." Robert replied, "Once a Special Forces soldier, always a Special Forces soldier. I oil and polish it every day." Seryeong asked Sunja, "How is the signal? Are you still detecting a response?" Sunja replied, "Yes. However, the life signal is getting stronger. It might not even be human. Be careful." Seryeong said, "Then let's deploy a reconnaissance drone first. We need to identify what it is." Robert shouted, "What, not human?" And then he went inside the tunnel saying, "I'll kill it! Come out now! You damn monster! The Special Forces are here!" Seryeong looked at him and said, "Ha! Causing a ruckus just because we're in his hometown." Seryeong then started walking inside and told the other two, "Let's follow in. Stay alert." Seryeong noticed a flame coming from the front, and before she could even move, it was all over her. The next thing she saw was Mokjin protecting her and Hua Rin from the flame. He was holding both of them in his arms. Seryeong asked, "What was that?" Mokjin told them to, "Let's go," and they saw Robert, all burnt and stuck like a statue. Seryeong asked, "Is he alive or dead?" She said, "Hey, Robert, if you're alive, say something, will you?" Then she asked Sunja, "Is he really dead just like this?" Sunja replied, "No, he's fine. Luckily, the combat armor did its job." Seryeong asked, "Then why isn't he responding?" And Sunja said, "He's probably just scared out of his mind." Mokjin saw a flower in the air, and suddenly it multiplied into hundreds. He looked in front of him, and there was a man glowing with pink light. Seryeong asked, "Is it him, the source of the light form signal?" Sunja said, "Yes. If the data is correct, he is the leader, Mount Hwa Flourishing Blossom Sword Sovereign Yongjoksan." Seryeong looked at him, stunned, and said, "That man, he is Mount Hwa's Sword Sovereign." Mokjin held a blossom on his hand and said, "The fact that the plum blossoms opened from the heat means he's achieved the peak of the plum blossom heavenly fragrance heart technique. But why have the plum blossoms bloomed in purple? This means that the plum blossom heavenly fragrance technique has mixed with the purple mist divine art." Hwa Rin looked at that man while crying and said, "Dad, this doesn't look good." Seryeong asked Mokjin, "What's wrong?" "What's the problem?" Mokjin told her, "The plum blossom heavenly fragrance heart technique embodies extreme yang, while the purple mist divine art embodies extreme yin. Thus, even the elders of Mount Hwa can only choose one to master." He then charged his fist, saying, "When a martial artist's desires surpass their limits, a demon takes root in their heart. That person is no longer human." He then told Seryeong to take the others and flee. "This fight won't be an easy one. Even I can't guarantee your safety." Hwa Rin ran towards the man, shouting, "Dad!" Seryeong ran behind her and tried to stop her, but Mokjin said, "It's too late now." Hwa Rin hugged the man, and everything became normal, miraculously. Seryeong asked, "What is this?" And Sunja told her, "It's normal. The world is now normal." Seryeong asked her, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "It's normal now. I see the people on the streets. The people who disappeared, they appeared all at once." After that, everything got calm, and they sat at a table. Seryeong asked Sunja, "You said there were no people here. Was the bioscanner malfunctioning?" Sunja replied, "We checked it together, remember? The scanner was normal, and even now it's normal, but something is off. The people here, all their internal energy is completely drained. Everyone, both children and adults alike." Robert said, "Isn't it fine since they look all right? We thought they were dead, but they're alive, so it's fine. I'm getting hungry, so I'll order some food." And he picked up his hand and said, "Excuse me, can I place an order?" Seryeong said, "Just a while ago you were making such a fuss all by yourself. Ha! It must be nice to live so simply." A server was walking towards them, and Robert said, "Ah, the server is coming over." He looked at her and said, "Here, I'll have a double serving of noodles and a large special dongpo pork." The server walked past him and didn't even look at him. The server served a person's food, and Robert asked, "What? Was she too busy to hear me?" She walked back towards him, and he tried to speak to her, but she still ignored him. Sunja said, "It's not that they didn't hear. It's like they can't see us. No one in this restaurant has ever stopped to look at us, even when they're right in front of us. They just pass by as if we're part of the scenery. They're not aware of us at all, as if we never existed in the first place." Seryeong said, "I don't want to get involved. I have a bad feeling about this." Hwa Rin's father poured tea for himself and started drinking it. Hwa Rin told Mokjin, even though there are guests right in front of him, he's not someone who would rudely drink his tea alone. He can't see us. He's been like this since I returned from my tour, but the strange thing is, he does all his work and tasks normally. He drinks tea, goes for inspections, eats meals, tends to the garden, always at the exact same time, like a wind-up doll. Mokjin moved his hand on Hwa Rin's dad's face, and she said, "It's no use. He can't see us. Still, you must be careful. If you prevent him from following his repetitive routine..." Mokjin snatched the teacup from her father's hand, and Hua Rin shouted, "That's a bad idea! Get out of there!" The man attacked Mokjin with his sword, and Mokjin dodged it. He tried to attack Mokjin several times, but Mokjin dodged all the attacks. Then, he charged his hand, and Mokjin shouted while touching his palm with Hua Rin's dad, "Enough! It's dangerous." A blast occurred from their palms, and the man started glowing like before when they first met. Mokjin said, "It's that reaction again, exhibiting both extreme yang and extreme yin together." Hua Rin shouted at Mokjin and told him to return his father's teacup to him, or he'll rampage more. Mokjin continued his words, saying, "When surpassing an unbreachable limit, the human body cannot withstand it. The principle should be, they fall into inner demons, their body bursts like a balloon, and they end up shredded to pieces. It should clearly be an impossible realm." As he said, Hua Rin's father was covered in pink dust, and a big glowing plum blossom appeared upon his head. Mokjin said, "A human, yet not a human. What is the story behind this?" Hua Rin shouted and told Mokjin to hurry, as it was getting dangerous. Mokjin threw the teacup towards Hua Rin's father, and the plum blossoms disappeared as his father held the teacup in his hand. Everything became normal after that. Her father again sat down and started pouring tea for himself. Hua Rin and Mokjin were looking at two moons above them, and Hua Rin told Mokjin, "After finishing the interstellar tour, I came back home half a month ago, and everything had changed like that. All those people, it's as if they were wind-up dolls, repeating the same thing at the same time, in exactly the same way." Robert grabbed a person's shoulder and asked him, "Excuse me just a moment. I just want to know what's going on here." Hua Rin continued her words, saying, "And if the repetition is interrupted, they stop. Everything stops. And then..." The person standing with Robert disappeared, and he asked Sunja, "What was that just now? Was that a teleport?" Sunja replied, "I don't know." Seryeong asked Sunja, "What do you mean you don't know?" "Sunja, if you don't know, who would?" Sunja replied, "Judging by the particle waveform, it seems like teleportation, but the scale is too large." Seryeong asked, "What do you mean by the scale? Where did everyone go?" Sunja said, "All signs of life have disappeared from the entire planet." Hua Rin was still talking to Mokjin and said, "When everyone disappears like that," she looked up and said, "Those things appear." Seryeong, Robert, and Sunja noticed a loud sound of walking. They all looked in the direction where the sound was coming from, and they saw an army of dummies coming towards them with weapons. Robert said, "I'm not sure what they are, but right now I think we're in a dangerous situation." Seryeong asked, "Are these androids? But why do they look half-finished?" Sunja said, "They're not androids, they're construction droids. They are models created for simple labor like planetary development. Since they are early models, they're equipped with low-capacity AI, so their cognitive abilities are limited." Seryeong said, "Oh, so they're just construction robots? I freaked out for nothing." She further said, "Don't worry, according to the 3 laws of robotics, droids can never harm a human." Robert said, "But they're all holding weapons though, right?" Seryeong walked forward and said, "Probably using them in place of tools." She picked her arm up and said, Hey, there are people here. So move aside and find another path. Stop crowding around and scaring people. A droid attacked her suddenly, and she barely dodged it. Seryeong dodged the attack and shouted at the droids, "What the hell are you doing? Are you malfunctioning?" All the droids jumped and attacked her. Hua Rin watched the explosion from afar and said, "They're the ones who show up after all the people disappear. Then they attack every living thing they see." Meanwhile, Robert and Seryeong were running away from the droids. Seryeong said, "When I came back after finishing the tour, I was attacked too." She looked back at her father's chair and said, "If it hadn't been for my father, I probably wouldn't have survived." For some reason, they never come to the place where my father is. And even if everyone else disappears, Dad remains. She looked at her father and said, "But only in that state." Mokjin said, "He's hanging on by burning his entire internal energy along with his soul, ready to face inner demons if he has to. It must be because there's something he has to protect, no matter what." He looked up and said, "Admirable." Then he walked and told Hua Rin, "All right, I'll take care of this. Let's go." Hua Rin questioned him, asking, "Where to?" Mokjin replied, "I want to take a good look at the face of the scum responsible for this." Meanwhile, Robert and Seryeong were cornered by the droids. Seryeong shouted in panic, "Why are they doing this? Why are the droids attacking humans?" And then she asked Sunja, "Sunja, is that even possible?" Sunja was hiding behind Seryeong and replied, "Impossible. The intelligence systems of androids still cannot violate the 3 laws of robotics. Attacking humans isn't even an option for them." Seryeong shouted, "Then why are they all acting like this? Are they malfunctioning? Or maybe they don't see us as humans?" Robert said, "Androids capable of attacking humans." "Combat androids?" Robert said. "Then don't tell me." The droids marched forward to attack again, but Seryeong told Sunja to hide and not move. Suddenly all the droids were blasted back. Seryeong looked up, amazed, and saw Robert standing behind her with his arms forward, wearing a combat suit. "They're not droids, they're iron gangshi," Robert said, as more gangshi walked forward. On a screen, someone was watching the scene unfold. An iron gangshi gave the details of Seryeong and her crew to him. The person was stunned to know about Robert and his origins. The iron gangshi asked, "Shall I issue the elimination order, Count Rachel?" Meanwhile, Mokjin arrived and asked Seryeong, "What's going on?" He saw the defeated iron gangshi and asked, "You were just fighting? But it's already over?" Robert replied, "I went all out this time. I've been waiting every day for a day like this, so I kept everything well-oiled." His suit broke apart, piece by piece, as he spoke. Sunja said, "We didn't deal with them. They retreated on their own. If they had kept attacking, we wouldn't have survived." Mokjin picked up a broken piece of iron gangshi and asked, "What is this?" "Armor." "You wear this metal thing?" Seryeong said, "It's not armor. It's a droid. A robot, to be exact." Mokjin looked confused and said, "What bot?" "Droid. Talk in a way I can understand. What are you saying?" Seryeong sat down and said, "You wouldn't get it even if I explained it." She told Sunja to roughly summarize it for Mokjin and said, "I'm tired. So tired." Sunja told Mokjin to think of it as a machine that can think and act like a human. Robert was amazed and asked, "No matter how much the world changes, how could a chunk of metal mimic a human?" Sunja took her head off and said, "To put it simply, it's like this." Robert shouted and dragged Seryeong back, asking, "What are you?" Sunja asked Seryeong, "Did you not tell him yet?" Seryeong replied, "We were busy." Through a camera from a fallen robot's head, Count Rachel was looking at Mokjin. A robot standing beside him said, "This individual is not registered in the database. Also, it appears they are unmounted with an internal energy drive, indicating they are a pure natural." Count Rachel stood up and said, "Judging by his foolish actions, he's not someone to worry about." He then looked at Robert and said, "But that man is a problem. If he's from the Special Tactical Division of the Galaxy Combat Unit, he's an elite soldier. Moreover, if he's a first sergeant, he's the best of the best. He wouldn't have come to this place by coincidence without a definite purpose. Be thoroughly vigilant and investigate. Later, a spaceship flew towards the Heavenly Demon Sect District 32. Upon its arrival, Commander John Retak and the Elder bowed their heads. A person stepped out from the ship, and Commander John Retak bowed his head while saying, "Thank you for coming such a long way, officer." The person yawned and said, "Yes, it's been quite a journey, so it better be worth the effort," Cho Dayan, a first-class officer from the Disaster Safety Headquarters Central Committee of the Heavenly Demon Sect, said. Commander John Retak and Cho were examining the leader of the Heavenly Demon Sect in the medical chamber. John asked Cho, "Do you see anything?" Cho touched the leader's head with his hand and asked, "Does it hurt?" The leader replied, "The pain has greatly subsided, however, my head still feels a persistent heat." Cho questioned him further. "Heat? There is no pain, but the heat remains." Suddenly, Cho squished the leader's head, making him unconscious and leaving his handprint on his head. John Retak touched his head and said, "This is a bit different." The original scar is swollen, but the second one is rather indented. It doesn't seem like the same martial arts technique. Cho pondered. They are the same. This is the scar from the 9-yin palm. John Retak was stunned and said, 9-yin palm is the lowest-tier martial art taught to any introductory disciple of our sect. I, too, had mastered it by the age of 7. However, the scar of 9-yin palm seems quite different from this one. As the elder served food to Cho, he rolled noodles on his chopsticks and said, "That's correct. The essence of the 9-yin palm lies in cold energy, but it left behind heat instead. So the scars naturally feel different. It means the person has reached a level where he can perfectly suppress the fundamental coldness of the 9-yin palm and leave only the heat of the impact. It's an act of consideration to avoid harming the enemy by the one who struck Sanzhen Wu Yue." John asked, "Is that even possible?" Reversing the fundamental nature of martial arts is like making fire out of ice. Cho replied, "It's theoretically possible. But for now, shall we eat first? How about some black bean noodles?" Later, in a shop, Robert told Seryeong that the droids they were attacked by were called Iron Gangshi. Seryeong, while eating a sausage, asked, "Iron Gangshi? What's that?" Robert replied, "It's a rumor I heard while I was still active. They're developing a new type of combat android that includes humans in its killing parameters," Robert said. Seryeong exclaimed loudly, "That's ridiculous. Android intelligence circuits are designed based on the 3 laws of robotics. They can't harm humans." Robert replied, "To bypass that, they replaced the intelligence circuits with the brains of deceased humans. That's why it's called the Iron Gangshi Project." Mokjin pulled Sunja's cheeks and asked, "Are you really not human?" Sunja replied, "Should I take off my head for you again? If you want, I can also disassemble my arms and legs." Robert took his hand back and said, "No need." What a bizarre world this is. Let's just eat. He looked at the table and saw that the sausages were finished. Seryeong said to Robert, "Based on the fact that they attacked us, it makes sense. But it's too absurd to believe. Using the brains of dead people? That's really insane." Mokjin stared at Seryeong's face with a serious, strange expression. Seryeong asked him, "What's with the face?" She then looked at the empty table in front of her and immediately told Sunja, "Grill some more sausages and feed him." Sunja replied, "We're all out." "Then there's nothing we can do. Anyway, let's get a clear grasp of the situation. It does feel like we're caught in a rather unlucky situation." Mokjin got angry and said, "Such disrespectful beings, even if the era of the martial world's etiquette is gone, to dare steal my food." Seryeong asked Robert, "What's he saying?" Robert replied, "Beats me." Mokjin continued, "Even if you didn't know my true identity, I declared myself as the supreme heavenly demon. How dare you?" Seryeong said, "Oh, right. He did say he's the supreme heavenly demon." Robert added, "Right." The supreme heavenly demon. Seryeong then walked out of the ship saying, "Confusing. We'll deal with it later. Priorities first, one by one." Robert and Sunja followed her. Mokjin sat alone in the ship. Sunja and the others came down from the ship and started inspecting the area. Robert picked up a piece of broken robot and said, "So poorly made. What's wrong with these joints? The alloy is too weak." Sunja said, "Oh, it's because this is a prototype, not the finished product." Sunja scanned the head of the robot, and Seryeong asked her, "Are you trying to seem something?" Sunja replied, "Their neural networks are also simple. The intelligence circuit is equipped with the primitive M207 chip. It's at a level that's embarrassing to call artificial intelligence. The M207 chip is optimized to receive commands, so it lacks autonomous will." Sunja looked at her and said, "That means they were remotely controlled." Sunja added, "Yes, each individual unit. The total number of droids that attacked us was 9,817, based on my detection. So that means at least 9,817 humans were controlling those droids on the other side." Meanwhile, Rochelle looked at the people. "Kept hostage in tanks," Seryeong said, her voice filled with concern. She asked Sunja, "What was the total population of the people in Manhwa district?" Sunja replied, 9,818, and just one of them is missing. Meanwhile, Cho ordered John Ritak, "I command a state of immobility and lockdown for the entire District 32. No one is to move, and no one is to leave or be allowed in. Recall all dispatched personnel immediately." John asked, "But why?" Cho said, "These are precarious times. 2,000 years of peace have been too long. The prestige of the martial alliance formed by the union of major sects has long faded. Do you know what happens when the fangs of the tiger that ruled the mountain fall out?" John replied, "Wolves will take over." Cho said, "Wrong. The wolves will try to become tigers themselves. Wolves formed packs because of the tiger. When the tiger is gone and they look around with the eyes that saw the tiger, fellow wolves will start to seem weak instead, because they're much weaker than the tiger. The first to become a target in such times is the strongest wolf. With the hunting habits they have developed while in packs, the remaining wolves will band together and kill it." Cho continued, "In the current martial world, that's the position of our sect, so we must act with extreme caution." John asked, "Are you saying the unidentified individual using our sect's martial arts is related to this?" Cho replied, "I don't know. That's the bigger problem. I received an emergency communication just before arriving here. That unknown individual headed toward Mount Hua. Yes, an unknown element has been placed on a powder keg ready to explode. If it's a spark, the world will explode. Hence, understanding the situation comes first. Actions come next," Cho exclaimed as he walked into his ship and flew away. Back on the Hua planet, Seryeong was talking to Hua Rin. "So, you're saying that the disappeared people show up again at night?" Seryeong asked. Hua Rin replied, "Yes, except for my dad. He stayed behind in this form." Seryeong asked, "How much time until sunset?" Sunja replied, "On the Mount Hua planet, day and night switch every 6 hours, so in 1 second. Suddenly they looked at Hua Rin, and her father was hugging her. "He does these actions without consciousness. stroking my head, sipping tea while surveying the premises, reading in the garden, just like before I left for my last performance tour. He did the same on my birthday last year. For some reason, he repeats this every day when the sun rises. Others are the same. They repeat a specific day, every day. Robert, on the call, told Seryeong, "No one is showing up. The streets are still empty. What's going on? Why are they late today?" "Sunja, do you detect anything?" Sunja replied, "There is something, but instead of them appearing, you're gradually fading." Seryeong looked at her hands, and they were half faded. She shouted, "What?" Sunja said, "The captain's vital signs are disappearing at the Greenwood ship." The commander told Kim, "Chief, a teleportation was detected from the center of the Mount Hua planet a short while ago. Analysis confirms the moving entity as Blazing Devil Seryeong." Kim asked, "What's the destination?" The commander replied, "The second moon of the Mount Hua planet named Genta." On Mount Hua planet's second moon, Genta, Seryeong was teleported and shouted in panic, "What's happening? My body is disappearing. What is this? Why is my body disappearing? No way! Am I dead? Did I die and become a ghost?" She jumped and noticed her hands were visible again. "What's going on? I'm visible again." She looked in front of her and saw Rochelle with a droid alongside him. Seryeong thought, "Who's that on the other side?" The commander told Kim, "Chief, that teleportation seems a bit unusual. There are no traces of consent from the moving entity during the teleportation process." Kim said, "If that's the case, this could be an unauthorized, forced transfer, a unilateral teleportation, forbidden by galactic law." Commander said, "This is a serious issue, Chief. It might be best to report this to the higher-ups." Kim said, "Is there anyone higher than me?" The commander bowed down in fear and said, "No, you are my commanding authority, Chief." In another scene, West Sword Matron was questioning Elena. "What did you just know? Who did you meet at Mount Hua?" Elena said, "He claimed to be my father. He clearly said that he was the one who fathered me. And in the duel with him, I lost." The matron was stunned and thought, "The one who defeated my daughter and claimed to be my father is now at Mount Hua." On Seryeong's ship, Robert slapped the table and shouted, "We have to save the captain! Some bastard dared to kidnap our captain! We need to capture that bastard!" Mokjin asked Sunja, "What's he saying now?" Sunja replied, "I don't know. Anyway, it's swearing. I don't really want to translate it." Hua Rin said, "The place where Seryeong was kidnapped might have something to do with the incidents on this planet." "Maybe others were taken the same way," Robert said. "We don't have any proof, of course." Sunja replied, "No, there's evidence. The phenomenon when the people from the Mount Hua planet disappeared is the same. It's a forced teleportation without the mover's consent, which highly suggests unilateral teleportation, forbidden by the galactic law." Robert grabbed Mokjin and exclaimed, "See? That means everyone is trapped somewhere. We can't just sit here. We need to act quickly and rescue them." Mokjin asked Sunja, "What's wrong with him?" Sunja replied, "Apparently, he has post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, from his time in the military and struggles to control his anger when he gets stressed." Mokjin told Robert to let go, his voice firm with anger. Robert released him and apologized. On Mount Hua's second moon, Seryeong stood before Rochelle and asked, "Who are you?" The robot beside Rachel explained the weapon Seryeong was carrying. An externally mounted 1.4 giga internal energy drive, specifically giga, not gigabyte, and a 3.3 giga ultra-high-density, high-capacity internal energy drive embedded in the body. The only external weapon is the electronic soft sword attached to the waist. Rachel sneered. A 3.3 giga internal energy drive? A backwater bounty hunter hiding something she can't even use? Seryeong questioned him again. Who are you? Are you deaf?